Hello, everybody. My name is Cynthia Peters. I'm the editor of The Change Agent, and I'm here to share with you today a short video about issue 54. This issue is called Supporting Our Communities and Advocating for Safety on the Job. Specifically, what I want to share with you are two graphic organizers embedded in this issue. And the cool thing about sharing these organizers with you is it also gives me a chance to introduce you to the whole issue. So let me show you how it's divided into two parts. Part one is about supporting our communities, and part two is about advocating for safety on the job, two really important dimensions of work during the pandemic. So let's start with supporting our communities. This little collection of student written content has stories by students talking about the work that they've done in their communities to support their neighbors and to make things work for each other during this really hard time of the pandemic. This story by Silvia Portillo is about how she both took advantage of her local food pantry and volunteered there so that other neighbors and community members could access that content as well. Darlie Corneal from the Consortium for Worker Education writes about what unions did to support workers during the pandemic. And that article is actually available in two levels. And as I scroll through, you'll see lots of other nifty things like bar graphs and images and all sorts of add-ons, including pre-reading and post-reading activities that help you teach this content. Here's a poem. And here's another article. This one is by Martha Takuri, and she talks about how the small business where she works, a chocolate factory, figured out how to stay open during the pandemic, despite the fact that a lot of their accounts were canceled. So now we have an example of how small businesses pitched in to support communities. And then here we get to the graphic organizers. And the way this is set up is in the left column, there's the heading, who or what supported our communities. And then down in the rows, you'll see food pantries, and volunteers who worked at them. That was one element of how communities got support. Unions and community-based organizations, that's another element, and then small businesses. And then in the third column, I have the page number of the article where you can find the information about that. And then in the middle is an open space for students to dive into the article and extract details that explain how this entity did the work of supporting communities. So the question in the heading is, how did they do it? There's two blank rows at the bottom, so students can find other sources, and they can use this third column to cite their sources. They could interview their classmates to get more examples of how communities got supported and how people did the work of supporting communities during the pandemic. Once they fill out this graphic organizer, they have a great basis for writing an essay, perhaps, on this topic. And they've got their details and their sources already noted. And so that's a great beginning platform to work on a piece of writing. The next section is about advocating for safety on the job. And here we have students writing about what they did in their different workplaces to advocate for safety. And we have somebody from a lobster factory, somebody from a grocery store, somebody from a blow dry bar, a prisoner, that's the article on the left, and on the right, a restaurant worker. So those are some examples of students in different and very diverse workplaces using different methods for advocating for themselves. So what were those methods? How did they do it? That is the topic for this second graphic organizer, set up very similarly to the first. The first column says who were the workers who did the advocating, and I list the lobster factory worker, the grocery store worker, the blow dry worker, the blow dry bar worker, et cetera, et cetera. And then I put the page numbers where you can find those articles. And in the middle, I leave space for students to put the evidence the details of how that particular worker advocated for their safety. So you can see this issue covers a lot of great content. It offers these 2 graphic organizers, which are a great way for students to organize material, read for evidence, write with evidence using multiple sources. I hope you enjoy this short video, and I hope you enjoy using issue 54 of the Change Agent.